Finally, I'm teaching you guys how to tune your drums and get them sounding amazing. This has been one of the most requested things for me to teach on this channel. Everyone is asking, teach us how to tune our drums, teach us how to get our drums sounding good. And today, I'm going to do that because I just got some new drum heads and currently they sound like so this is how they sound currently. So sweet. So basically, guys, I'm going to be showing you how I tune my drums. That's my personal preference because there is no rule that states that your drums must be tuned in a particular order. That's one thing I want to establish in today's video. It just depends on the style of music you're playing and the kind of sound you want to produce. You know, some people love their toms sounding high, some love their toms low and fat, some loves their snare mid, high, low. It just depends on the kind of music you play and the kind of sound you want to generate from your drums. So now let's get right into it. So the first thing we're going to do, these are new drum heads. So the first thing you do, you just have to mount some pressure on it. Now, sorry, you're already seeing some dampeners already. I already tuned this drum earlier today. I made some videos with it and did some recordings with it. So I would explain the use of these dampeners. Make sure you don't damage your mount. That's the mount that is holding the drums. So you mount some pressure on them. Just put some pressure on it. Some pressure, press it down. Do it for this one too. Put some pressure, press it down. Do the same thing for this one. Press it down. You get. The first thing you now want to do when you want to start tuning is, first of all, finger tighten. Do you understand what that means? Use your fingers and tighten everything round. Make sure you can get everything to be tight to a particular point just with your fingers. You get that? You get that done with just your fingers until do that until your fingers cannot go anymore. So even at that, our drums are still sounding. You get. As you already know, we're starting with our toms. We're leaving the snare and the kick for the last. So first of all, tune starting with the cross pattern. Yeah, just use a cross pattern. So start here, you do here, you do here. So we start from this. Let's just do like 2 tones, 2 tones. Same thing here. Tightening it just 2 tones round. I'm having it sounding like this, which to me is still not nice. So I would have to now tune it up to whatever level I want it to be. If you love your toms ringing, you know, high pitched, no problem. Go all out to that point. But I'm going to now, I might, you know, speed up this video. I'll try to tune it to the right tone I want. Then I'll tell you guys what I do to the resonant head. So basically, I've gotten the toms to sound how I want them to sound. So what's the reason for this? I was able to, you know, tighten my resonance head before now. The difference between your resonance head and your batter head should not be much. In fact, if they can sound the same. So mine is a little bit above. For some people, yours is going to be the same. For some, it's going to be below. Just find the one that sits perfectly, and when you listen to it, it still makes sense. So now the reason for dampeners, you can see here, I'm going to take the dampener off and you hear how it sounds, and then I'll put it back. You see the difference it does. Now, how do I get, I didn't buy a professional dampener, so I'll tell you how I get to do my dampeners. I just get a piece of paper, you know, cut it, get a black tape because black looks more, you know, aesthetically pleasing. So I'll put it like this and then put it on the drums. But without it, this is how it sounds. You can hear some weird overtones, but then once I put this on it, I love to always put it just at places where it's not going to disrupt. You hear a serious change. So see how good it became? The same thing applies with this. So same applies for here. Hear how it sounds without the dampeners. I can hear some overtones, so I choose to, just put a little of this. It doesn't really change the sound so much, but it just helps kill those overtones. And this is very helpful, particularly if you record drums, like if you track drums. Some of these overtones, you need to kill them. If you're playing live, you might not really notice them. But if you record your drums, you hear this slight overtone. So that's what I do. So that's basically how I get my toms tuned. Do you understand? So basically get the resonant head and the batter head to sound very similar. You get? So, but I noticed something. If you're using some kind of low budget or entry level drum kits, you might have to, tighten more than you do on some very high range drum kits. One thing you can also do with your tuning to be sure you're correct is try to make sure the difference between this log here and this log here is not very huge. Let them sound similar at least. You get? Do the same here. So for me, most of the times I have a way my drum wants to sound. So I want to get more like ba dum dum dum. So once I get that sound, I start working towards that. So that's what we have here already on the tom. So we have, you get? Oh, our floor tom is almost there already. Yeah, because everything here is already loosened up. But one thing about the floor tom is that most times you might have to tighten your resonance head more than the batter head. Do you understand? So you get that sweet reverb. So you don't just have a floor tom that is just boom. You need that boom. You understand? So, and one thing I always love you guys to note, please, I've gone to so many churches and I find people, tuning their floor tom high, like tightening it, except you're a jazz player. Tightening your floor tom, that sounds somehow. So losing your floor toms, possibly after finger tightening your floor toms, just give it like half tone round. Give it just half tone. Mine already sounds good. I'm not even going to add anything. I don't think I'm going to add anything here. Already sounds good. So I'd love to hear and cross-check that. So that's it. Don't forget, tune here kind of low. Let the bottom be higher. But if it doesn't work for you, find somewhere else. But make sure you get that, low end sound that is very pleasing. But there's something I want you guys to note, so you don't keep wondering why your drums are harder to tune than some other people's drums. Now, if you make use of coated heads, you get heads like Evans EC2 coated, you get for toms. Now you most likely will not need dampeners. I've noticed this whenever I play coated heads, you barely need dampeners. But whenever you play clear heads, they have tendencies to have those overtones. So that's why you see most people that have clear heads, they have some dampeners, but you barely see people with coated heads putting dampeners on their drums. I just decided to put that one out so you understand that part. You get. So now let's move on to our snare drum. On my snare drum, I have the Evans UV1 drum head I love so much. This is how it sounds currently. Terrible. But one thing I'll always tell you with your snare drum is quite easy to tune, but it depends on the drums. And why I'm saying this is because I've played all manner of drums. I've played the worst drums. I've tuned the worst. I've tuned almost the best. And I'll tell you something about drums. The cheaper ones tend to be harder to tune than the expensive ones. Yes, most of the times. So most of the expensive drums, you just, few tones and you already sound it. But if you use a cheap drum, I'll tell you, so first of all, you try your best to crank the bottom. I don't want to spend so much time in this video, so I did all of this before I started the video. The bottom head, the resonant head, is already cranked up, like very tight. You get? Most times for me, cranked higher than this one. But I like high-pitched snare, so I'm going to, tighten up this one right now. One thing I'd love to tell you while you're tuning your snare drum, try to make sure each part of the drum close to the lugs sound as close as possible to each other. So now, we've cranked up our snare drum to the point I think I like it. So it should be it's sounding good, I think. So just need to check around. So you see, at least it's very close and almost, but we already have the snare drum sounding good. So on to the last thing on our list, we have the bass drum, and I hope you guys can see my bass drum from that angle. Now, something about the bass drum, I'll only talk about the bass drum. I'm not doing anything on my bass drum. Why this is because the bass drum needs muffling most times. So you need to get like your old clothes sometimes or foam and just put into the bass drum. I'm not saying pack all your clothes and put inside the bass drum. You get just, let's say 4 to 5 if you're putting clothes, but if you have foam like I do inside here, I just run the foam round the whole drums. Do you get? And the second thing you need to know about your bass drum, don't tighten your bass drum. Don't tighten up the head, except if, once again, I think jazz drummers tighten up their bass drum head, not the jazz drum. I don't know. If you play regular styles like funk, gospel, and all of that, try to loosen up your drum heads. You get, don't let it be too tight so it doesn't sound poof poof. So you can see my bass drum head. You can press it and you see how it goes down. But yet when I hit it, it sounds very nice. For your outer head, just make it medium. Don't tighten it too much and also don't loosen it too much so that the drums can breathe. And make sure you most times have a hole cut in your bass drum. You have so that air can move out of the bass drum. So there you have it. You've learned how I tune my drums. If you have a different way you apply in tuning your drums, you can let us know in the comment section. And if you love drum solos and all those crazy drum stuffs, I want you to hit this video, check it out, this video right here, and have